Okay, our next topic is relatively much simple as compared to what we have been looking at previously, right? We'll just be discussing, you can say, the string class a little formally, right? You have already been using it maybe, okay, but in some cases, this class is not explicitly discussed. It is assumed that you can just use it, right? Because it's fairly simple, but maybe we can spend some time so that we can have a better understanding of this class, right? Of course, it's a built-in class, so there are many functions which are available. We'll just discuss few of the commonly used functions, right? But of course, if you are solving a problem, a specific problem, and you need a specific function, you can always use a search engine to see the syntax of a function, right? So if you know how to call a function, you can call any function, right? Which we discussed in the beginning, that why functions are very important. Okay. So you see, most of the examples that we have done so far, right? So our focus was on understanding the concept of an object-oriented programming, right? For example, our concept was on understanding composition. Our concept was on understanding operator overloading, right? And for that, naturally, we keep the examples which are very simple so that you can focus more on the concept rather than the problem itself, right? Uh, because if we try to solve real world problem just to explain a concept, then there will be challenges, means you can have difficulties not only in understanding the concept but also the problem, right? So that's why the problem is kept very, very simple. This is the reason that in almost every lecture you see the point class at least once, right? We see other examples as well, but I always keep that because this is the simplest example of a class. But you see, practically when you are making a solution, so you will need not only integers or float, you will need some other data as well, right? Any system you make, for example, a management system for a university or for a restaurant in your neighborhood or for a pharmacy, you will always need to store textual data, right? And what is textual data? Names of people, names of employees, names of medicines, addresses, email address, right? Or anything, a passport number, which is a combination of numbers and digits and characters, or anything that you think of. So textual data is something very important that we have to deal with when we are trying to make a real world solution, right? It is almost very rare that you will make a system which is not using textual data, right? So previously, if you for textual data in programming, we call it a string. Okay, you know from your previous knowledge that textual data is a generic term which anyone will use, but a programmer will call it a string. Okay, so if you are using strings in pure C, right? We know no C++, right? So you know that string is actually just an array of characters, right? For example, if I have to store a city, so I will say character city. This is one character. So I say, okay, the city name can be around 20 characters. So I just take an array like this. Okay, so what happens is that in the memory, 20 bytes are reserved because character is 1 byte, 0, 1, 2, up to 19. Okay, and whenever you will enter some string, right? Maybe any city, for example, if you enter maybe something like this, so you also know that the string terminates with a special character, which is called the null character. Okay, which tells the program that the string terminates here. Okay, so this is the, you can say, conventional or the C style of storing textual data in your program, right? But you see, this representation has many, you can say, challenges. Although you can address them, but it is not very simple. For the most obvious challenge is that, you see, first thing that comes to your mind is what should be the size of this array, right? Because city names can have different lengths. So you will think that, okay, what is the maximum length that I can encounter when I have to enter name of a city? So you will have to give that maximum number, right? Because if your array size is 20, it means you can actually store 19 characters if you leave room for the last null character, right? So you see, you don't know in advance. So if your size is 20 and tomorrow there's a city which has 25 characters, so it can be a problem, right? Another thing is that when you have to perform very basic operations, like you have to join two strings together, right? I have a first name, I have a last name. Okay, so this is maybe F and this is L. So if I have to print the name together or put them together in a single variable, then you see you have to call a function like string concatenate, or which will join these two together. You see, joining is something very basic operation. It should be much simple than that, right? But there is no facility available where you can quickly do it with or very trivial way you can do it using an array of characters, right? Another important thing is that when you are dealing with arrays, you cannot write something like city1 is city2. You cannot directly use assignment operator. It will not give you an error. Okay, it will compile, but you see, it means something else, because name of array is actually address of array. So you are actually copying an address. You are not copying character by character in the other string, right? So syntax wise it is okay, but it does not yield the result which you are expecting. So you see, if you have to copy a string in another string, either you use a for loop, copy it character by character, or you have to call a function. I think it was string copy, something like that, where you give source and target. So this function actually copies one string to another string. You see, in case of integers, you just write X, you use the assignment operator. But when you have to copy a string, you have to go through this complex process of calling a function, which is doing a very basic job of simply copying something. So you see, all of these make life a bit tough when you are dealing with strings and you are implementing strings with array of characters. So for that reason, in C++, we have already a built-in class which is called string. And this class actually has almost all the functionality, common functionality that you need when you are dealing with textual data. Of course, if you have some very specific requirements, you can make your own functions, right? But the commonly used functions, they are already available in this class, okay? So we'll be discussing some of the common functions, that how it works, so that later when you are writing some programs in which you are dealing with strings, your life would be much more easier as compared to using an array of characters, right? So as I told you, this is actually a class, okay? So it means there is some class. I'm just giving you a general idea, string which someone has written, okay? So this is a built-in class, so you don't make it. You only make the objects of this class in your program. Okay, just like if I make the point class and I give you an assignment and I say, okay, point class is already there, just use it in the main. So what you will do, you will simply make the objects of point class, right? Point P, and then you will do whatever you want to do. You don't write this class, okay? The same is the case here. Okay, so if you are dealing with strings, okay, so you see, you can make the objects of this class just like you do for any other class. For example, I can write string s. Okay, now you see this statement is exactly the same as writing point P. Both of these are equivalent. This is the first thing, string is name of the class, and this s is actually your variable, which we call object. Okay, so actually when you create an object, a constructor is called. So in this case, default constructor is called. But you see, we can also call parameterized constructor, just like for point, we call a parameterized constructor. Here we can call the parameterized constructor like this, as is a object-oriented programming. So it means that now the string has this value. Okay, this just you can say calling the parameterized constructor. So now if you will write cout s, you will see this on the screen. And you can also write directly like this, just like you use the assignment operator with integers or float or characters. With the string class, you can use assignment operator, right? So you can copy any string in a variable, or you can copy two strings. So this is perfectly fine. We already know that the assignment operator works for objects, so you can perfectly use it, which will copy one string into another string. Okay, so this was some trivial information. Okay, now you see, string is a class, and when we have classes, we can do operator overloading. Okay, so since when string class was written by someone, so they actually overloaded some operators so that anyone who is using the string class, they have more facility. Okay, so there are, I'll show you the table in the slide. There are certain operators which are overloaded for this class. For example, this plus operator, plus equals, less than, greater than, equal to, not equal to, and so on, right? So these operators are actually already overloaded. When I say already overloaded means you don't have to do it, you just need to use them. Okay, so let's just do examples of few operators which are available to us, which are already overloaded. Okay, so now let's start with the plus operator. Okay, so suppose in the main I have a string s1, right, which is a object. I have another string s2, which is a okay, and I can write string s3 is s1 plus s2. Now you see you are using an operator plus with objects. So it means this operator is overloaded, right? If it is not overloaded, we cannot do it. So this operator plus is already overloaded, and what it does, this plus operator is actually concatenation, right? So in when you were implementing string in the C style, you had to call a function which was concatenating two strings. Now, what does concatenation mean? Concatenation simply means joining. So what will happen? What will be this S3? You have the first string and the second string joined together. Okay, so this is now one string. It does not automatically put a space, okay, because space is like any other character. Space is a character. If you want, you will have to put it yourself. Okay, so plus operator, if you use with strings, it will concatenate or it will join two strings, right? Means s1 were object, s2 was oriented. So when you write s1 plus s2, you can copy it in another string which is s3. So s3 is actually a combination of these, right? So if maybe someone says that, okay, I also want a space in between, so what you can do is you can write maybe s1 plus space plus s2. Now, okay, so now you have you can say object space oriented, right? So this is like one operator. This operator has another version, right? Just like we have assignment operator and an arithmetic operator combined together. So same is true here. You can also write S1 plus equals S2. Now what will happen? Both S1 and S2 will be concatenated and the answer will go to S1. Okay, so now if you write C out S1, okay, then what will happen? You have the concatenated string, or the two strings are joined together and S1 has the updated value, right? So you see, when you are dealing with strings, you are using the class string, but please remember that at the back end, it is still maintained similar to an array of characters, right? Means this is O, this is B, this is J, and the only thing is that you as a developer or a programmer, you don't need to worry about the indices, the size. Okay, the size can automatically expand, right? You don't need to worry that what should be the size of the array if I am explicitly declaring an array. So at the back end, every character is stored separately, just like it was in an array of characters when we were explicitly making it. The only difference is that that information is, or that complexity is transparent to the programmer, right? At the programming layer, you have much flexibility. At the back end, the same thing is happening. So when I say same thing is happening, it means you can actually access the individual characters of a string just like you were using in an array of characters, right? Now, what do I want to say? It is something like, for example, if I write S1, 0. Okay, so since at the back end, it is stored at an array of characters. So the first character is O, so this will print an O on the screen, right? Similarly, you can write S1 of 1. So means we are talking about this B. Okay, so it's more or less the same, you can say, concept, but when we are writing, this information is transparent to us, so that we don't need to worry about indices or size of arrays, and we can just use the objects as fundamentals, right? Okay, so you see, for operators, the only operator that is overloaded is plus and this. Okay, there is no operator like minus, multiply, divide. Okay, these are not overloaded for this class, because addition is for concatenation. Subtraction, it won't make much sense, right? If you want to do it, you can do for your own class, right? But for this class, only these two operators, uh, you can say, from the arithmetic family, only these two operators you can use with the string class, right? There is no subtraction or multiplication, division, or mod, right? Now, the last thing for today, just like arithmetic, this plus, the relational operators, they are also overloaded for the string class. Okay, it means I can write S1 less than S2. I can compare two strings, whether this is less than this, right? But you see, we know that the operator compares two things, but when we are comparing integers, we can say, okay, yes, this is true, right? Because we know 2 is less than 3. But when we are dealing with text, not numbers, then it is not very straightforward that how they are compared. Okay, that how you are comparing two strings. So I'll just maybe give you some basic information, and then maybe we discuss in detail later on. So you see, you have a string ABC, okay, and you have another string, say XYZ. So when you are comparing two strings, actually you are comparing the ASCII codes of the character, right? If you remember, every character has a code, right? I don't remember. I think A is 97. Okay, maybe. I'm not sure. I think. And B would be 98. Similarly, C would be 99, and so on. So if I'm comparing A and B, so you see the code of A is 97. The code of B is 98. So it means actually I'm comparing 97 and 98. So 97 is less than 98. It means A is less than B. So this will give me true. Okay, so this was for one character. Now let's see how do we do for complete strings, not single characters, right? Okay, so here you are comparing two strings. Okay, the one string is ABC, other is XYZ. You will compare them character by character. It means first you will compare their first characters. You will compare A and X. Since we can make the decision here, A comes before X, so it means A is less than X. You don't need to check anything later on. You just say that ABC is actually less than XYZ. Okay, because you arrived at a decision on the first letter, which was A, and here it was X. So A is less than X. You don't need to check anything else. Now we can have a different scenario, right? For example, I give you a scenario where we have something like maybe one string is A, A, B, and the second string is A, C, B, something like this, okay? So again, and the length of these strings can be different, okay? So rather let me make it different so that you don't think that their lengths are being compared, okay? So what we do, we compare the first character with the first character. Both are same, we cannot make a decision. We compare second character with the second character. Both are same, we cannot decide. We make a comparison between the third character. A is less than C. Now, since A is less than C, so this whole string is less than the second string. So it means we will say that triple AB is less than double AC, right? The string on the top is less than the string on the bottom. So this is basically how it works, right? But you see, you don't need to go into all these details. You see, a simple way is that, I don't know, we don't use much, but I'm sure you are familiar with what is a dictionary, right? A dictionary, maybe we don't use paper dictionary anymore, but maybe you have one dictionary at your home from maybe some previous years, right? So in a dictionary, how things are arranged, even in a telephone directory, right? At first you have all the words with A, then B, then C, and so on, right? And within A, you have all the words which are starting with A, maybe then A, B, then A, C, and so on, right? So a simplest way is that when I ask you, is ABC less than XYZ, you think which of these will come earlier in the dictionary? This will come first, this will come later. So ABC is less than XYZ, right? So if we have a dictionary, anything which is coming before something else, so what is coming before is actually smaller than what is coming later on. Okay, so if I just give you two strings, say C, D, E, and say T, K, Y, so which of these will come first in the dictionary? This one, right? So it means this is smaller than this. So at the back end, of course, I told you the detailed process that how strings are compared character by character, right? And please don't think that some of the students actually compare the length, okay? It has 4 characters, it has 2 characters. No, length is not compared. You compare the characters, the content itself, right? So please be careful because this is a common mistake that many students make, right? So this is how this relational operator works. And if you know how less than work, it means you know how greater than works, because it's the same concept if you know how equal to, not equal to work, and so on, right? So with the string class, it means that when we make a class, we are now in a position to use these operators for concatenation, and we can also use all of the relational operators with objects of string class, right? Now, why they are useful? For example, if I give you names of all the students, student is a class, okay? And I give you the name of the student and I ask you to find its GPA. So you will have names of all the students, right? So you have a query, say maybe you have a student Ali. So what you will do, you will compare his name with all the students, okay? And then if you find it, you will print its GPA, right? So you see, it is something very important that we should be able to compare two strings. If you have to search something, then this operator would be very useful. If you were using C, then you must have used this function, string compare, and then you pass it to string, so it gives you the answer, right? Here you see life is very simple. You just write less than, greater than, equal to, and you are getting the answer rather than using the string compare function, right? So with that, I'll stop for today, and we'll complete rest of the discussion on the string class in the next lecture.